Do you know what your mind looks like in the age of digital illusions? Welcome to the megacity of the future, where every step is soaked in the cold light of neon lights, and the air is saturated with data, much like the eternal smog of the past. Here we wander among the glass walls of skyscrapers while drones like silent ghosts pierce the sky, leaving no trace. The weather, as if a reflection of this world, is covered in a light fog, and the puddles on the sidewalks become mirrors of advertising slogans that promise to strengthen connections with others in virtual reality. But what is really happening? Why do we need all these holograms when there is unbearable emptiness around? On screens, there is a stream of emotions dictated by algorithms, yet in real life we remain alone. As we try to find comfort in simulations, the main value becomes not intimacy but the number of likes. Loneliness turns into a conscious choice, a striving for authenticity in a world where sincerity has become a scarcity. Each new day is a new contract for interaction, which only isolates us from one another. We watch as even feelings are required to be optimized, and we ask ourselves, where is the truth? In this maze of technology, the protagonist seeks meaning, observing others and gazing into his own reflection. A person in the crowd is not just a statistic but a living metaphor of our time. How far are we drifting from reality, choosing virtual communication over face-to-face interaction time and again? This is how life is lived here. But what does it all mean for humanity? The world is changing, and along with it, the definitions of love, friendship, and closeness. Behind artificial smiles and virtual hugs, the most important thing is lost. The realization that being close to each other does not simply mean keeping up with social media updates. So where is the truth now? What if I tell you that the world of feelings is much more complex than you think? I am a moderator of others' emotions in this amazing virtual space where every notification is a small performance and every dialogue is a real drama. Sitting among dozens of monitors, I feel like a captain on a ship navigating the ocean of others' experiences and passions. The faint blue glow of the screens illuminates my face like morning light breaking through the clouds. Life behind my monitors resembles a carousel. One emotion replaces another, one story drives out another. I watch as people joyfully laugh, cry, experience disappointments and triumphs. These are not just canned phrases. This is a live show where I become not just a witness but also an active participant. For example, today I saw a stranger sending a message to a girl with apologies, and she responds with a burst of joy. In this tiny moment, scattered across thousands of miles, lies an entire universe. Every dialogue is not just a set of words. It is a life full of hopes and fears, joys and sorrows. Some say I am just an observer, but is it possible to stay on the sidelines when you see dreams come true or hearts break? Every response, every word is a thread that connects us all, creating an incredible tapestry of human connections. I am here to balance these feelings, to find exits where none are visible, to uncover hidden truths, and to help people be heard. This is how I live in my little universe, surrounded not just by monitors but by doors into the lives of others. Sometimes I feel like I am reading not just text, but a story waiting for its resolution. And every time I turn on the screen, I understand. This is not only my job, it's my eyes and ears feeling the pulse of human stories. Are you ready to see what is on the other side of the screen? What if I ask you, where are you when you're watching this video? Perhaps in a cozy chair with a cup of coffee, surrounded by your favorite things. Or maybe you are in the subway, surrounded by people, yet feeling an inner emptiness. We have all witnessed the wonders of the virtual world where distances disappear and communication is abundant. We exchange messages, likes, but where is the real closeness? When was the last time you talked to someone face to face and felt your hearts beating in unison? It seems we are drifting away from this, diving into endless news feeds and vacation photos of others. We are more connected than ever, but what is happening to our true connections? Maybe this is normal? Maybe this time demands more virtual than real from us? Or are we missing something important? Think about it. In the world of hundreds of friends on social media, how many of them can support you in a tough moment? Real closeness is not emojis and messages. It is the moments when we explore our feelings and share what truly matters. And until we ask ourselves this question, our lives will simply be a series of virtual meetings devoid of real warmth. So what happened to closeness? 2. Do you know that almost every encounter in the modern world begins not with a glance on the street, but with scrolling on a screen? 99% of new relationships are formed precisely because of digital platforms, without which it is already hard to imagine our lives. How did this become possible? Imagine how, in the pre-internet era, we sought connection in cafes, at parties, or on the streets. Now, sitting on the couch, we can literally meet our destiny with just a few swipes. Algorithms created for this control our personal lives, matching couples based on what we watch, what we are interested in, and how we communicate. Have you ever wondered how exactly technology has changed the dating landscape? It has created a new digital universe full of opportunities and surprises. Instead of relying on luck, we today choose for ourselves. Or maybe not entirely. Every click, every message goes through complex reforms of algorithms aimed at bringing us together. This has become the modern romance in the world of technology, where love and friendship are formed in the format of ones and zeros. Is it hard to perceive? Yes, but every time you start a new dialogue in a chat, you open a new page in your personal story, created not only by your words, but also by those very algorithms that have paved the way for new, unexpected meetings and connections. It is time to take a look at the world where these technologies lead us. The extent of their influence on personal relationships can indeed be impressive. Don't miss the chance to explore your new digital romance. With every person you meet, you get closer to your new self, shaped by the algorithms and formats that surround us. What would you do if your ideal partner existed only in virtual reality? Imagine this. Two people full of hope and love immerse themselves in a world where the boundaries of the physical world blur. They create their avatars, choosing perfect images. She has long hair, wearing a dress that never wrinkles. He has a masculine face, always in sportswear. They dance in enchanted forests, stroll through digital streets, holding hands amidst colorful virtual decorations. Every evening begins with tender words and ends with a gentle farewell, waiting for the next meeting. Over the year, their connection deepened like never before. They discuss dreams, fears, share thoughts about the future. Every conversation brings them closer to understanding each other. Virtual reality becomes a true refuge for them. But then comes the moment when the time for a real-world meeting becomes inevitable. And suddenly, as if the clouds have covered the blue sky, they stop. One question: what if this reality turns out to be different from what they dreamed? Fear and uncertainty engulf them. What is it like to see each other without filters and pixels? Who do they really want to see? Their true selves or idealized versions? Each postpones the meeting, each makes new excuses. Virtual hugs replace the familiar ones, but a thin, web-like reality of fear remains between them. Another year passes. They continue to communicate in the digital space, but the real world waiting beyond the screen becomes further and further away. They don't see how technology becomes their barrier instead of uniting them. Within this new reality, they cannot decide what is more important: the connection in virtual fun or the immediate closeness in real life. It's a paradox, love that requires nothing but courage. And so their story continues, cloaked in the vibrant colors of the virtual world, but hiding the truth about how technology can separate even the closest hearts. Are they still meant for each other or just living in an illusion? Are you ready to learn the truth about how closeness in the digital world can leave you feeling utterly alone? We live in an era where conversations take place not face to face, but through a screen. And it seems that the more we communicate, the more isolated we become. Every evening I sit down at the table, prepare a cozy candlelit dinner, and start a video call. The image shows bright smiles, phrases full of warmth. But as soon as the screen is removed, all that is left before me is emptiness. It seems that we are connected, but what is really happening between us? My words, like snowflakes, fall onto unknown ground where no one is waiting for them. The words echo in the speakers, but only return as echoes. I ask myself, where have we lost ourselves? Perhaps there is a lost sincerity between the lines of messages, that very charm of live communication that cannot be replaced by any GIF or emoji. One day I decided to conduct an experiment. I turned off notifications for the whole day and simply observed how quickly silence emerged in my life. Calls disappeared, messages froze, and suddenly I realized that it is this silence that I can fill my life with. It filled the space where friendly conversations and virtual meetings once existed. I looked out the window at the stars and understood that maybe they hear me better than all those who live in my phone. And then the thought comes, the truth is that behind all our actions lies nothing but the fear of being alone. We seek connections, but what if these connections are just another way to distract ourselves from real emotions? I am still waiting for that spark, a real, genuine connection that will melt this icy emptiness. Isn't it time to seek real feelings, not just virtual circles on social media? Thoughts of this slip through my mind like the wind, gently carrying away fragments of what was. I ask myself, how many people around me are losing real life behind screens? So let's transfer our reality from the digital realm to the feeling of the present. Moments that could have become a part of us remain irretrievably lost. Will it continue like this forever, or will we finally decide to break this cold circle? What if I told you that feelings can be bought and sold? Imagine that your love for someone could be packaged in a contract where each promise has an expiration date. Sounds absurd? In our world, nothing can be considered sacred. Sentimentality goes down, giving way to cold logic. Emotions have become commodities. Instead of expressing our love, we sign papers and stamp seals. You can order relationships for a month, a year, or even just for the weekend. At the end of each term, there's a straightforward question. Do you want to renew? Do you want to experience disappointment when your partner decides to terminate the contract? Or worse yet, to be relieved that the decision was made for you? People walk the streets as if searching for a new contract. They approach each other and in a simplified manner ask, how long are you willing to extend your interest in me? Ask yourself, how many emotions have you already managed to sell? What does it feel like when you realize they have been devalued? Stories of abandoned contracts for feelings are becoming more common. I heard about a couple that formalized their love during a week of romance. It ended and both returned to the cold embrace of loneliness. Isn't that frightening? We must ask ourselves, what has happened to sincere feelings? How did we get to the point where love has turned into a product that can be returned? Perhaps it's time for all of us to remember that true emotions are not something that can be measured or boxed. Now that we have unlearned how to dream and believe in sincerity, is it worth signing the next contract? Or perhaps it's time to boycott this crazy world. Open your eyes before yet another extraction of emotions exceeds the limits of normal. What if I tell you that all our connections have turned into an illusion? We live in a world where each of us is connected every moment, yet we feel more alone than ever. Social media is full of likes and comments, but real conversations are rare. We scroll through feeds, looking at the happy faces of friends, and suddenly realize there is a huge chasm between us. Communication used to be a true art, and now we replace it with emojis and GIFs. Isn't it strange that, surrounded by hundreds of friends, we can't share our true feelings? We hide our tears behind screens, retreating from a world enveloped in virtual illusions. The silence on the other end of the line becomes louder than the friendly hellos. Imagine this. In a cafe full of people, everyone is absorbed in their phones. No communication, no support, just sincere smiles from images on screens. Can this be called real relationships? Each of us waits for someone to notice, but in the end, we just look at empty screens filled with information but devoid of meaning. Loneliness is not just the absence of people nearby, but a lack of genuine communication. We have become masters of words, but without content. Hide the screen for a moment and look into the eyes of the person next to you. Do you see what you wish to hide? Behind all these posts often lies pain and distress. We are all in this together, and perhaps it is time to ask ourselves, how long will we allow virtual communication to replace real relationships? This contradiction concerns each of us, and it is very important to pause and ask ourselves, how can we break this cycle of loneliness amidst people? Have you ever wondered when was the last time you truly spoke? Not just uttered phrases hiding behind familiar words and masks, but sincerely expressed your feelings, your truth? Recall a moment when you weren't afraid to be vulnerable, when words flowed from your heart and filled the space with genuine meaning. It's like a spark igniting in the dark, like a glowing beacon that shows the way through the fog. Think about how many times you locked away your thoughts and emotions, fearing someone might not like what you think. This habit of filtering your words and feelings can sometimes become a real trap. Is it important for people to know what you really think? Or perhaps there are those nearby who are waiting for you to open your thoughts and express your emotions? When we stop speaking, we lose the chance to be understood. Each of us carries a whole universe within, full of ideas, experiences, and dreams. And if we don't share this with the world, how can we be authentic? So when was the last time you truly spoke? Are you ready to learn the truth about how technology is changing our lives? In a world where everything is accelerating and communication is becoming more superficial, a new reality is emerging. Artificial intelligence capable of listening and helping, just like a close friend or therapist. Scary? But it's happening right now. Imagine you are going through a tough time. You have been feeling lonely, and ultimately you decide to turn to an AI bot. It responds instantly, no judgment, just silent understanding. It's no longer just a program, it is your virtual, supportive friend. You know, in many countries, millions of users are choosing AI. They trust their most intimate experiences to algorithms, as it seems easier than opening up to someone because of the question, what will they think? What happens to those who still turn to people? They may be left waiting in line, hoping someone will have time for them. Statistics show that over 40% of people in the world feel anxiety and loneliness. And now, instead of going to a live psychologist, they choose to chat with a bot. It seems logical. No need to share your feelings with strangers without the barriers present in traditional interactions. But ask yourself, what is lacking in this dynamic? What does ordinary communication lack that allows a cold yet impartial program to replace it? Are we boldly embracing progress, or are we perhaps missing vital aspects of human communication? Maybe the next step will be fully virtual meetings with avatars that smile, nod their heads, and even possibly cry in unison with your feelings. In a situation where technology encourages us to stay connected through a screen, we must consider where the fine line between helpful and dangerous lies. Don't miss the opportunity to reflect on the meaning of true communication. What are you waiting for? What if I told you that every evening you observe the lives of others while remaining in the shadows of your own? In this world of screens, we often live other people's stories rather than our own. I sit in the dim light of my room, the walls exuding silence, and look at the monitors filled with bright images, dialogues, dramas, joy, and tears. Here, in this virtual ocean, where every moment can be switched, it seems as though I become part of hundreds of lives, none of which I truly experience. Parallel to me, millions of people laugh, cry, fall in love, and break up, and each time I turn off the screen, I return to the same loneliness. Sometimes their joys seem so real that I catch myself thinking I would be happy if I could be one of them, even for a moment. How much longer am I willing to spend on these foreign plots? I ask myself. I have buried my nose in the lives of others, exploring every detail. But here's the question. Why is it so easy to watch, yet so difficult to participate? I look at their extraordinary lives, and I have the feeling that I know them better than I know myself. These screens fill the emptiness created by my own silence. With every smile, I strike out a moment of my loneliness, hoping once again to feel like a participant, but each time I remain just a spectator. And in those moments I forget. Life is not what we see on the screen. It doesn't allow us to switch to something better. It demands something more. It requires the courage to step beyond our own world. And only when I overcome this barrier will I be able to understand what it means to not just watch, but to live. What if I told you that loneliness can become your best friend? Imagine this. You are surrounded by people, but you don't connect with anyone, diving into your thoughts and ideas. This is the story of a person who made a choice, and not just any choice. He became his own mentor. Meet Alex. In the midst of his career, he realized that his true dreams lay far beyond the boundaries of everyday routine. He rejected every invitation, every suggestion to meet friends. Not out of fear of being alone, but from a deep inner desire to become better. Alex decided it was time to work not on relationships, but on himself. At first, his friends didn't understand. They playfully urged him to go out. "Come on, you only live once." But Alex knew. To create something great, you need time and strength. He immersed himself in books, yoga, and sports. He began to discover what once seemed unattainable, the perfect blend of mind and body. Of course, there were moments when loneliness overwhelmed him. But in those moments, he uncovered strengths he hadn't noticed before. He learned to be his own opponent in debates, became a meditation master, and his health soared. And after a year, when his old friends met him again, they were amazed. Alex shone like never before. They noticed he had changed not only outwardly, but also inwardly. It was not just a transformation, it was a life full of depth, meaning, and new steps toward self-improvement. He learned to listen to himself and appreciate the time spent in solitude. But why did he choose this path? Because sometimes to find yourself, you need to get lost in a world of silence. And what if you could also don that cloak, trying to find the light within yourself? Perhaps it's worth asking yourself the question. What are you willing to give up to become who you've always dreamed of being? What if I told you that sincerity is something more than just honesty? In an era where every word we say is processed by algorithms and pictures on social media are captured by a digital eye, can we still maintain that very sincerity? We are constantly surrounded by simulations, to the point where it can be difficult to understand where reality ends and its imitation begins. Imagine communicating with a friend, not knowing if they are sincere or just trying to align their words with trends. Or looking at a screen and seeing perfect lives online but feeling lonely at 8 in the evening because reality doesn't match the picture. Is it possible to create a formula for sincerity once and for all? Or is it something that can never conform to strict norms? How do we know when we are in real life and when we are in a virtual game? Can we achieve authenticity in a social network filled with celebrities and edited photos? This is a question each of us is searching for an answer to. But how can we find it in a world where everything is created and controlled by algorithms? So is there something we can do to bring sincerity back into our lives? Perhaps it's worth slowing down, looking within ourselves and asking the question, who are we really when all the masks are off? Do you know that online romance can be a deception? We all dream of a prince on a white horse or a perfect princess, but how often does that image match reality? Imagine this. You meet someone in an app. You have been messaging for weeks, building perfect plans together, sharing your most intimate thoughts. Your imagination paints an ideal picture, a delightful meeting, a moment full of magic and love. You eagerly await the moment you can see this gallery of possibilities in reality. But then, the meeting. You arrive at the cafe and time seems to stand still. You wait, but reality turns out to be much less romantic. What you envisioned looks completely different. The person with whom you shared your dreams surprisingly isn't as attractive as in their profile. Their jokes don't sound as witty as in the messenger. The smile seems forced, and the conversation feels strained. The myths of perfect relationships begin to crumble like card houses, leaving only a cold reality. How often do we idealize people without knowing their flaws? Should we delude ourselves in hopes of perfect relationships? Or is it better to accept people as they are with all their imperfections? At the appointed hour, you realize that dreams remain just dreams, and reality is not always what it seems. The gap between expectations and reality poses a difficult question. Are you ready to continue? What if I told you that loneliness is not solitude, but a sign of strength? In a world where constant communication has become the norm, someone chooses to forego crowded parties and noisy events in favor of solitude. Sounds strange? But this very solitude becomes the new luxury, a symbol of inner strength and self-sufficiency. Imagine a person sitting in a cozy chair with a book in hand, enjoying every moment. They don't feel boredom or emptiness. On the contrary, this is a time for reflection and reevaluation. In a day filled with numerous meetings and obligations, they seem to find the golden mean, where they can truly be themselves. Many of us confuse loneliness with isolation, but they are different things. Isolation is when no one is waiting for you, no one calls, whereas loneliness is when you choose solitude to recharge, reassess priorities, and understand what you truly want. It's like being on a beautiful shore while the ocean roars around you. You are nearby, but you have chosen your calm spot. Have you ever wondered why most successful people talk about the importance of time alone? They use these moments to reset their thoughts and recharge with new ideas. Loneliness becomes not just a habit, but an element of strategy, a strategy for winning in a world full of endless noise. This contradiction, loneliness as a sign of strength, can change your perception of life. Start to see your time alone not as a lack of communication, but as a true privilege. You will learn to listen to your feelings and desires rather than the opinions of others. Learn to see loneliness as an opportunity for growth and self-discovery. So perhaps it's worth reconsidering your views on loneliness. It's not the absence of life, it's the full embrace of it in your own rendition. What if it is in this solitude that you discover your true values and become the person you have always dreamed of being? How often do you feel that the latest messages in messengers only tire you out? It's not just fatigue, it's real digital exhaustion. We live in a world where every send button seems to drain a part of our energy. Imagine that previously, when communicating with friends, you met face to face. Laughter, friendly teasing, excitement waiting for a reply. Now, by replacing conversation with text messages, we have shielded ourselves from immediate emotions but lost something important. How does this affect us? Know that 95% of people don't even realize how much constant communication depletes them. It's like waves washing over the shore. They wash away not just the sand, but also leave behind mental fatigue. Every new notification sound is like a reminder that we need to be connected, but ultimately we increasingly seek solitude. Do you remember how you held back a moment to read a message but didn't reply? Such behavior may seem normal, but in reality it is a symptom, an inner desire to shield yourself from even greater emotional burdens. The fear of simple manifestations of intimacy and communication can turn into emptiness within. And here you are, on the edge, physically close to people but emotionally so far away. Have you ever wondered why you suffer from this emotional hunger? Look at your surroundings. A continuous flow of notifications, new acquaintances on social media, but real closeness seems to evaporate. We avoid real connections because we fear they require too much. And the value of the virtual world devalues the desire to be near. Thus, a barrier is created between the real and the digital, making any attempts at genuine intimacy difficult. It is hard to feel warmth and support when every conversation happens through a screen. It's no surprise that most of us increasingly prefer to stay alone, avoiding this emotional overload. Each of us faces this on our journey. Despite all the advantages of digital interactions, there is a sinister side: the loss of the ability to be real. Let's figure this out together and see what path we can choose to restore the lost connections. What happens when you stop limiting yourself? A man in a suit stands by the window. The sun is setting and the last rays of light fill the room with a warm glow. He looks at the screen of his phone where a notification from a virtual partner is flashing brightly. A mix of emotions reflects in his eyes: anticipation, fear, relief. He takes a deep breath and presses the unsubscribe button. It seems like just a click of a button, but inside him a storm is brewing. His own relationship with this illusion has been complicated, filled with expectations and misunderstandings. With each drop of courage, he feels the weight lifting away. The phone rings. It's friends pouring into his life with talks about success and true love. He smiles, but later, when he is alone, he realizes that his true happiness is not tied to the virtual world. He remembers how he once discussed with friends that real relationships require real courage, the courage to let go. Through this process, he realizes that each unsubscribe is a small victory over himself, a step toward freedom. He recalls how, in the past, every time he clicked the Enable Notifications button, his heart would race with anxiety. But now, for the first time, he feels like the master of his fate. The courage he found within himself completely changes his perception of love. He feels joy every time he can say no to what no longer brings happiness. A sea of relief and joy begins to fill his soul as he realizes that breakups can be beautiful and necessary. They open new horizons, new possibilities. Thus he takes a step back and observes the process of rebirth. Inhale, exhale. He is ready to embrace a new phase of his life, and with each moment his heart beats faster with joy. This breakup is not disappointment, but a newfound ritual, a reminder that sometimes it is necessary to let go in order to gain more. Have you ever wondered where your self ends and the algorithm begins? In a world where every step and every choice is calculated by artificial intelligence, what remains of our individuality? In the past, when we made decisions based on feelings, desires, and moments, it seemed like we had control over our lives. Now, as choices slide towards digital interfaces, we increasingly rely on machines. Imagine standing at a crossroads, a new job or keeping your old one. Which decision will be yours? Or perhaps it's already a prediction based on your past actions. You may not realize it, but more of your preferences are being shaped by algorithms that penetrate our daily lives, processing data and predicting your actions. Beyond them, there is no room for spontaneity. What if your entire life is just the result of calculations? Can we claim to preserve our essence when every move we make is recorded, analyzed, and interpreted? Look at your friends. Do they truly know you, or are they reflections of you recreated by social media algorithms? They may be confident in their conclusions, but do these really reflect yourself? Today we live in a world where sharpness is added, where seconds of decision-making can seem like long-awaited universes. And in this universe we have a question. Do we remain this self when our choices rely on mathematical models? Remember, algorithms do not understand emotions, they are merely tools. But the question remains, what will you choose? To live according to the algorithm or disregarding predictions? To follow your desires and feelings? What if you have always dreamed of being unique, rather than just another person in the crowd? Often, being among many faces, I find myself wondering, how can I stand out among all these avatars, among everyone who easily blends into a single gray cloud? Sometimes it feels like life is passing by like the weather, fun and noisy, but deep inside there remains an emptiness, a longing for the true, unmatched me. I recall how every morning in childhood was a real adventure. The soft light streaming through the curtains, the world around me unfolding with each new day. I now look back on this with nostalgia. I keenly feel how much we change as we grow up, how the mundane crashes down on us with unprecedented force. The desire to become important, irreplaceable, to be truly meaningful. This longing eats away at us from the inside. I know many of you feel the same way. We are not just names on cards or numbers in systems. Behind each of us lies a unique story. Each of us is a small universe full of sensations, passions, and dreams. But why is it sometimes so frightening to be ourselves? Why is it so easy to surrender to the ravages of the ordinary, to become part of the crowd, where it's so hard to proclaim our uniqueness? Perhaps it is a defense mechanism, perhaps it is just fear. What if each of you opened your incredible story? What if you took a step toward your unique self? Experience that sweet taste of freedom from others' opinions, the fear of being out of place, and finally saw its substantial, infinitely significant value. Let's remember, each of us is a masterpiece. Each has the right to their own path, and this individuality is what brings us closest to genuine happiness. It's time to remember who we truly are. What if I told you that your closest friend could become just another virtual avatar? We live in a world where likes and emojis begin to replace warm hugs and sincere words of support. Virtual flowers and gifts sent at the push of a button may seem convenient, but do they replace the real moments that warm the heart? What happens to our emotions when we no longer feel touches, only the cold light of screens? Imagine this. You are celebrating a birthday and your friends, instead of coming to congratulate you, send brief messages with animated cards. They are, of course, nice, but perhaps you were expecting a deeper intimacy than just a pretty image. We can all remember saying happy birthday through a screen, but what if we remove those pixels and bring it into reality? What then? How we long for those simple, sincere moments, lips on a cheek, hugs, as if the world stops for a moment when you meet the gaze of a loved one. Or remember the moment when your favorite song played, and there was no one around to share it with. We replace real feelings with virtual marks of approval, and our emotions relocate to a world distant from human nature. We warm our souls with simple virtual messages of "I love you," but cannot feel the warmth that radiates from a real touch. The question arises, where does this digital dependence lead us? We are losing not just connections, we are losing a part of ourselves, This absurd transition from the warmth of human relationships to the cold symbolism of screens alters our perception of love and attachment. Real life becomes a substitute replaced by likes and emojis, and when we finally realize this, will it be a shock for us or just another virtual image that we scroll through in our news feed? What if I told you that sincerity has become a rare commodity in our world? We live in an era where every word, every gesture is scrutinized to madness, yet genuine emotions and true feelings are starting to disappear, like a rare species of animals listed in the Red Book. All that remains are masks and self-irony intended to conceal true experiences. Imagine being in a room full of people while feeling an incredible loneliness. Every time someone says it's all good, deep down they may feel disappointment, longing, or even fear. Why is it so difficult for us to be sincere despite all efforts? And you start to wonder, what is happening? Has our ability to openly express our emotions and connect with each other completely faded? Think about it. We have become prisoners of the images we create on social media. Where are the real connections? Does sincerity still exist within us, or have we betrayed it ourselves? Loneliness. Many perceive it as a sign of weakness, but why not see it as a search for meaning? This is a time for reflection, a chance to look within and figure out what truly matters. You need not fear these moments of silence. They can become the truest teachers. How to begin this journey? How to find a way to speak the truth even when it's hard. Each of us can become sincere. It starts with small steps. A genuine, "How are you?" without expecting a boring answer, a willingness to listen when someone needs to share their pain. Instead of hiding behind masks, let's awaken sincerity in ourselves and others. Open your heart, and you will see how not only your perception of others but also your life as a whole will change. How much time do you spend trying to please others? What if I told you that loneliness can become your most loyal friend? Have you ever wondered why some among us choose to be alone and seem to find strength and endless possibilities in it? Many now debate whether loneliness is a choice or a punishment. But what if true courage lies not in always being surrounded by people, but in the ability to remain true to yourself even in the darkest hour? Once, I met a person who lived in solitude all their life but was truly happy. They learned to listen to themselves, to dream, and to take action even when no one was around. Loneliness is often seen as an enemy, as a sign of weakness. But have you ever considered that behind this mask could lie a brilliant plan? Being alone does not mean being isolated. It is an opportunity to focus on your goals, on dreams you may never have dared to pursue in the crowd. Ask yourself, what if right now you could take a step towards your true self? Are you ready to take the risk and embark on the path to self-actualization, following your desires and interests, even if it means going alone? Give yourself a chance to rethink your life and see loneliness as your greatest ally on this journey. What happens if you free yourself from the shackles you didn't even realize you had? When I first realized that my digital relationships were suffocating me, it felt like a heavy blanket pulling me down. Each program, each message seemed to transform into a beacon that drew more and more energy and time until I was drowning in this thoughtless flow. However, the moment I finally decided to break this contract became my day of liberation. It was like taking a deep breath of fresh air after a long time underwater. I felt tears of joy welling up in my eyes. Finally, I could breathe. The solitude that once seemed like a defeat now looked like a new level of freedom. I understood that this was not the end but the beginning of something good. At that moment I realized, solitude is not a burden but a gift that allows me to rethink my desires and dreams. What if you had the chance to rediscover yourself? I began to explore the world around me. The silence in my head created space for thought. The time I used to spend waiting for messages was now directed towards myself. Every morning I woke up with new goals as if I had a daily adventure plan. I realized I was mistaken when I thought the mysterious and enigmatic online world was my life. Suddenly stumbling upon a book I had long wanted to read, I felt a wave of joy. It was not just reading. It was a return to myself. I started drawing again, walking around the city, meeting friends, enjoying the moments of every little thing. Each step took me further away from that temporary connection that drained my energy. And the more I filled my life with real experiences, the clearer I realized, I am not just a person sitting behind a screen. I am a person with dreams, desires, and the right to happiness. I learned to find joy in solitude, and it was, to put it mildly, a liberating experience. Now I understand that it is not just solitude, it is an opportunity, a path to self-discovery. I freed myself from stereotypes and began to see my true self without filters and embellishments. Every time I feel sad, I remember that solitude is not a slow path to demise, but a beautiful opportunity for growth. And if someone tells you there is no victory in this, just smile and move on. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to go back in time and meet yourself? What would you say? Perhaps it would be in that moment that you would realize all those promises you made to yourself but forgot. One day I found an old box in the attic. It contained many lost things and one bundle neatly tied with a ribbon. It was a letter addressed to myself. Inside were words I had long forgotten. Don't betray your feelings, remember who you are. Reading those lines, I felt again the excitement and sincerity with which they were written. So simple and so important, to remember yourself. Like a raindrop falling into a still puddle, this letter evoked waves of memories about how easily we sometimes give in to the pressures of the outside world, about how we deceive ourselves for convenience, forgetting our true desires and dreams. I remembered how, immersed in routine, I lost the thread that connected me to my true feelings. Why do we so easily abandon our emotions? Why, when faced with difficulties at every choice, do we doubt our dreams? I am sure that each of us has that inner voice that says, listen to your heart. But we often forget it. Now, after some time, I realize how important it is not only to feel our emotions, but also to be true to them. It means allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, allowing ourselves to make mistakes, but never breaking that invisible thread that connects us to our sincerity. In this letter, I found myself anew. What about you? Write to your future self right now. What would you say to avoid losing yourself in the hustle of life? Are you ready to learn the truth about why more and more men are choosing solitude? It may seem like just a trend, but it hides a wave of changes in men and society. The statistics are relentless. The number of men rejecting traditional relationships is growing every year. Consider how this affects our understanding of love and partnership. These are not just numbers. These are lives, hearts, and dreams that oscillate between the desire for freedom and the fear of true intimacy. Men are increasingly preferring to build careers, pursue hobbies, and seek self-sufficiency, leaving romantic connections aside. Who said that loneliness is bad? For many, it is a new way of life, a new understanding of happiness. Look at the world around you. More and more men are choosing individuality over cohabitation. It seems they are saying, "I can be happy without a partner." But behind this choice are deep emotions that we sometimes overlook. Yes, freedom, but at what cost? In analyzing these trends, we see not only a rejection of relationships, but also a desire to find oneself outside traditional frameworks. So what do all these men have in common? What is their story? What drives them? If you have never thought about this, perhaps it's time to open your eyes to a new reality. What if I told you that the meaning you seek is becoming increasingly rare? In a world where simulations and fake images fill every gap, genuine meaning becomes the most valuable currency. Every day we encounter information that leaves no room for depth. We consume content and news, forgetting the real questions that stir our souls. Imagine the moment when we lose touch with ourselves, when the noise around drowns out our inner voice. Every time we subscribe to the societal production standards, we lose a part of ourselves, replacing it with patterned behavior. Yet in this chaos, there is one important truth. The search for meaning is the path to inner freedom. When I was young, I spent a summer in a small village. Every evening, the locals gathered around a fire, sharing stories and sincerely discussing what it means to be truly happy. I remember one phrase: "Meaning is not what you have, but what you create." In those evenings, I realized that true connections and understanding are what fill our hearts with joy. You may have your own answers to the question of what meaning is. But how often do you ask yourself this question? Genuine meaning can lie in simple things, in caring for others, in the pursuit of knowledge, in honesty with oneself. It's not always easy, but within this contradiction lies the key to our inner freedom. We live in an age where it's easy to get lost. But now, when true values are at risk, we must remember that the search for meaning is not only our task, it is our responsibility. And it is this search that creates a bridge between our inner world and external reality. What do you want to do to bring meaning back into your life? Perhaps it's worth pausing for a moment and asking yourself this important question. Remember, genuine meaning is the rare currency of the future, and only we can ensure its preservation. What if everything you were taught is outdated? What if the true path to yourself lies not in the company of others, but in that quiet and empty place where it's just you and your thoughts? We go through countless days following familiar routes, interacting with those who might not even understand us. But what happens when we dare to take a step into solitude to see who we really are? Imagine this. You are sitting in silence, alone with yourself. Suddenly a whole world opens up. Desires, dreams, fears that you have hidden. This might be sincerity. But here the question arises. Are you ready to do it? Are you ready to face the truth about yourself and return to your source, even if it will be painful and frightening? On our path, there is a choice. To stay in comfort or to take the risk and choose the true you. Loneliness can be the key to self-discovery, but the price of this choice is the readiness to confront what we have never wanted to see. Yes, this may push away those around you, but this is your journey, and only you can decide if it is worth it. We often seek answers outside, but the real answers are within us. So at the finish line of our journey, I want to ask you a question. Are you ready to choose yourself? Are you ready to meet yourself to let go of conventions and to embrace your own sincerity, even if there are no people around who are ready to understand you. Give yourself that chance.